Beneath the swirling, treacherous currents of France's Rhône River, a massive, heavily armored biological chimera navigates the deep limestone caverns. This is the Tarasque. While it is often seen today as a whimsical parade caricature, the original historical texts describe a terrifying 15-foot-long amphibious apex predator. This was a biological fortress, possessing a fearsome, lion-like mammalian head, 6 stout bear-like legs, and a massive, impenetrable keratinous shell bristling with sharp defensive spikes. Early riverbank settlements lived with the reality of this animal. To them, it was an indestructible force that regularly crushed riverboats and effectively halted merchant trade along the water. To understand how it survived these encounters, we must look at the specific evolutionary advantages of its anatomy, starting with its primary defense. This diagram shows the structure of the creature's massive, turtle-like carapace. It is formed of thick, interlocking keratin scutes and rigid, bony spikes, a combination designed to distribute the force of physical impacts across the entire torso. Locomotion required 6 short, heavily muscled, bear-like legs. These extra limbs, equipped with thick digging claws, provided the immense traction necessary to maneuver its heavy frame through deep river mud. Its offensive capabilities were equally specialized, featuring a lion-like skull with crushing jaws and a heavy, scaled reptilian tail equipped with a venomous, scorpion-like barb for close-quarters defense. This biological configuration rendered traditional medieval weaponry ineffective. With no way to pierce the shell, entire populations were forced to abandon the riverbanks to avoid the predator. This manuscript contains the earliest documented behavioral field reports of the beast. Ancient Roman and early Christian texts recorded the Tarasque as a lethal menace that decimated trade along the vital Rhône River. In the 1st century, historical legends record that Saint Martha of Bethany entered the creature's wooded riverbed territory, armed only with a jar of holy water and a wooden cross. When the armored chimera emerged from the Rhône, she sprinkled the water upon its lion-like face. This action appeared to target its sensory spines, inexplicably pacifying the creature's aggressive biology. Using only her woven sash, she led the temporarily docile 6-legged beast into the town of Nurluk, where the townspeople eventually killed the resting animal. This recorded outcome suggests the Tarasque was a flesh-and-blood animal, one that could be defeated by identifying a behavioral trigger rather than through military force. This castle was the royal stronghold of King René of Anjou in 1469. From this position overlooking the Rhône, the king witnessed the enduring impact the creature had on his kingdom. King René officially established the Festival of the Tarasque that year. This royal decree provided a formal cultural response to the ongoing physical disruptions occurring along the riverbanks. Evidence in royal logs shows that local historians and boatmen blamed the Tarasque's descendants for catastrophic spring river floods and the destruction of heavy docks. These logs describe the spring surges as the result of massive armored creatures clearing out deep river channels as they moved through the basin after the thaws. For centuries, the civil engineering, trade, and economic survival of the Rhone basin were shaped by the seasonal migrations of this aquatic apex predator. In the modern era, the search for the beast has moved into the deepest unmapped limestone aquifers of the Rhone basin. This robot is part of the equipment currently being deployed by hydrologists and underwater robotics teams. These crews are monitoring the deep riverbed for any measurable biological activity. This sonar grid illustrates the submerged environmental monitoring used to map these impenetrable aquifer networks, using passive acoustics to detect movement. It is now returning measurable digital readouts of massive subaquatic anomalies, representing a quantifiable disruption in the deep riverbed acoustic grid. The Tarasque is no longer a subject confined to medieval tapestries. With modern technology documenting these anomalies, the armored Leviathan has become a measurable part of the Rhone's subaquatic record. Southern France is defined by its deep history, and for centuries, academics have viewed the architecture of Provence as the backdrop for a purely religious metaphor, the legend of the Tarasque. Historians traditionally dismiss the monster as a folkloric exaggeration, a way for medieval communities to process the terror of the unpredictable river floods that devastated the region. But that perspective changes when ancient folklore is suddenly confronted by modern empirical observation. The turning point arrived during the catastrophic Rhône River floods of December 2003, which reached levels that forced a total reevaluation of the local legend. Emergency rescue teams near Tarascon reported a 15-foot spiked carapace breaching the surface of the mud. The creature pushed through the violent currents and floating debris using 6 powerful, clawed legs, appearing completely unbothered by the force of the water. This specific account from trained responders provided a modern, physical counterpoint to the flood metaphor theory, warranting a forensic investigation into the region's complex waterway networks. To explain how such a massive creature could remain hidden, hydrologists proposed the 2003 sighting was a temporary displacement from a primary habitat located deep underground. Supporting evidence for this theory emerged from a 1998 professional cave diving expedition charting the submerged limestone networks connected to the Fontaine de Vaucluse. At 300 feet below the surface, the team's lights hit a massive, spiked, bone-white shell wedged into the rock. The divers initially believed they had found a large fossil, but as they approached, the entire mass shifted. The water displaced violently as 6 bear-like legs pushed off the limestone, and a mammalian face briefly turned toward the lights before vanishing into an unmapped siphon. This deep water encounter suggests that the vast, unmapped subterranean aquifers of France act as a primary habitat, explaining why such a large organism has historically avoided surface-level detection. The investigation shifted to physical trace evidence during a severe summer drought, which exposed long submerged riverbeds for ecological survey. While charting erosion, hydrologists documented a continuous trackway of massive footprints stamped deep into a freshly exposed mudbank. The trackway presents a biological contradiction. The claw morphology matches a massive bear, yet the stride is distinctly reptilian and utilizes 6 legs. Just yards away, a heavy steel dredging pipe was found violently crushed, bearing deep parallel score marks that match the abrasive scrape of a spiked keratinous shell. These physical forensics move the investigation beyond anecdote. The creature is a biomechanical reality with enough mass to destroy industrial infrastructure. In April 2026, an underwater robotics team utilized subglacial AUV drones and environmental DNA filtration to conduct a deep-water survey of the flooded aquifers beneath Provence. The drone's 4K cameras captured a 15-foot biological entity resting on the cavern floor, clearly displaying a mammalian skull and the heavy spiked armor of a testudine. The AUV successfully recovered a water sample from the creature's wake, allowing researchers to isolate environmental DNA, or eDNA, from the background noise of the aquifer. The sequencing revealed a chimeric profile that merges turtle armor genetics with a previously unclassified mammalian-reptilian lineage. The combination of high-resolution robotics and genetic sequencing provides undeniable proof that a prehistoric apex survivor commands the French aquifers. Compounding evidence defines the Tarasque as an unclassified biological reality armored against time. By following the progression from modern eyewitness reports to physical trackways and genetic data, science has dismantled a centuries-old assumption of myth. The existence of this predator indicates that, despite our industrial expansion, massive unmapped ecosystems continue to operate directly beneath the surface. As modern specialists continue to map these depths, the armored leviathan remains a reminder that these ancient waterways are a dangerously uncharted frontier.